Good afternoon. Welcome into the Senate Committee on Government Operations meeting of Tuesday, March 24th, 2026. First up today for our consideration is 8588, which we affectionately call the OPR bill. An act relating to professions and occupations regulated by the Office of Professional Regulation. And we want to have Kate Nugent come up. She was the sponsor of the bill from the House and kind of help us understand what is going on in 588. Welcome, Kate. Great to see you. Do you know everybody on the committee?
I believe I do.
Okay. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Very sunny. So let me know what would be most helpful, but overall this bill does a few things. Big picture, it makes it a little easier for some people to enter certain professions. It streamlines paperwork for some other professionals, and it regulates massage therapy establishments so that it will be easier to enforce human trafficking violations. That's kind of like the big picture.
Okay.
So I can sort of highlight my bill report if that's helpful.
That'd be great.
I went out of order because I think that some of the more bigger things are not really ordered. So for CPAs, this bill will allow them to become certified through apprenticeship, basically. So they'll still have to take an exam to be licensed, but they can also do it through experience instead of just having the education. So that's make it more affordable for a lot of folks and hopefully make it easier for us to get more CPAs, which we need. Section 14 also.
Yeah.
So Kate, don't CPAs at the moment get a certification? And I mean, they train academically to be a CPA.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a certification to be a CPA. Well, why isn't that enough?
It is enough. It's just this is an alternate way to get there.
It's like reading the law.
Yeah. Mm, yep.
Raise. Did have 588 somewhere?
You do?
I don't.
You have an overview of it that was given me just emailed seconds ago, but you also had it printed and it was on the stack of my speech.
Don't see it, but anyway, I'll catch up. Thanks.
It's 588.
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
Fire. 588.
And then just going to section 14 that aligns the continuing education reporting requirements for advanced practice registered nurses with national standards and eliminates reporting. Section 18 is the one that requires registration of massage therapists massage establishments. And then section 19 makes sure that people who are victims of human trafficking are immune from criminal prosecution.
Haven't we done that already? I mean, I'm sorry. We've massage therapists been forefront in this committee for years. I thought we had registered already.
Rather maybe than getting
Okay.
too granular, we're just
Okay. Sorry.
finding out what's in the bill. Senator White?
Well, I had a question about a section that we did not discuss because it looks like you're kind of going over kind of the top level ones, but I'm happy to save my question. It was related to the midwives and the removal of their group. Sounds like they have a board that's being removed. So thank you.
Did you just email this?
Yes.
All right, so sections 1 through 7 are ones that apply to the general powers of OPR and the license rescissions, and for various reasons allows them to do that. That's one of their options for dealing with licensure. Sections 4 and 5 allow OPR to enforce against fraudulent attempts to obtain licenses. And section 6 requires members of professional boards to be adults, just due to the nature of what is cited. Section 7 corrects terminology to align foreign licensees application denials with all licensure denials. Those processes will be the same. Section 11 and 12 create a special license for dentists to teach in dental schools without a fee. So there might, it sounds like there's going to be a potential dental school in Vermont.
Oh, yeah.
The dentists to teach there will have a special license for that. So
Yes. This is like someone coming from out of state to practice.
yep. Section 13 redefines funereal services as providing for the disposition of dead human bodies by cremation, alkaline hydrolysis, natural organic reduction. Section 15
I love that.
allows additional pathways to licensure for psychologists. So if someone doesn't have all of their like 100% of their coursework, they could still potentially get that licensure, and then OPR session that fields to develop rules around that. Again, trying to address some of the needs for licensed professionals in Vermont, because we're loads to have for almost every sector, it seems like. So section 16, which is the one that you mentioned, just aligns the midwifery regulations with national credentialing procedure. And OPR still will have the discretion to request individual practice data, but it makes it so they're not having to report that separately. And I believe the board question we had is
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I see. So it says to dissolve the midwife advisory committee. And that says to the director and to the commissioner of health. I guess I could read the exact language, but you're no longer having that special board. Now it's just the director of health basically reviews.
I believe so. Yeah,
Well, you can weigh in what you want, sorry.
Okay.
Let's get on.
I can just speak to that, Lauren Hibbert, Deputy Secretary of State. When midwives were originally licensed by the state of Vermont, there was a lot of concern about midwifery. These are home midwives. And so not only were there advisors, which is the traditional advisor profession model, there also was the creation of this midwife advisory committee, which was a separate committee. And it reported to the director and the commissioner of health, had midwives and physician membership. It's been very hard for OPR to staff.
Oh.
There hasn't been a lot of utility or use from it anymore. And so we are recommending that it be dissolved because it hasn't been a functional resource in quite some time.
Thank you.
And then section 17 creates a sunrise report for the speech language pathologists and assistants. They were really excited to have this happen, facilitate their work in the schools. And I think this should make it easier for us to get more of them. And then section 20 are the effective units. And we heard from a bunch of people. Do you want me to list their witnesses there?
No, we can-
You felt like you already talked about 18 with the massage therapist.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have many more discussions.
Oh my God, we've been talking about massage therapists for decades.
And our committee voted this bill out favorably 10-1.
And on the floor, just a voice vote?
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions for Kate?
Well, you're awesome. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
I like it.
Appreciate it.
Great.
I understand you'll be on the floor a while, so
Yep.
get some nourishment
Sure
before you
not
head
easy
in.
for one.
So the other highlights, Kate, no fee raising.
I don't believe
Only,
so.
only the establishment of fees. for
Right,
massage.
only establishing the fees, but no fees being raised. Please know that even though we have a SOS app.
We're gonna plan to address that in the next biennium.
Thanks, Kate.
Maybe we need to license legislators.
Oh boy.
Jim, do you want to step up? Sure. Please. Yes,
Good idea.
yes. I just want to remind committee members, the procedure is not to ask Jim why. That would require him to offer an opinion on policy. If you have specific questions about what's in that bill, obviously.
Thank you very much for having me back. For the record, my name is Tim Duffin, Legislative Counsel. And your call already indicated, you do have the as passed by the House version, which is 32 pages, and then an overview. I put together that material, which is 6 pages long. And
Here, Alice, You have this.
I know,
Well, you're looking at the bill though.
I have to get back. I don't know how to get back to the overview. I mean, I know you know how to do this fast, but
Maybe
somehow
we
I
could
don't.
ask Lynn to print a copy of the
She-
bill.
It's a.
I got it,
Maybe we can ask the print again.
but I'm just checked on the overview of these 6 pages. You got it down by a bit.
Okay.
I can work off the overview and jump into maybe the words of the bill in particular when there's a question or a want.
Excellent.
Okay, so I will kind of take the mile high introduction here, just kind of buzzing through the purpose, rapid fire, and then we'll get not completely granular, but level 2 of detail, as described in the outline here. Just an introductory note, this bill can be broken into 2 general parts. First, the Title III, which are the general powers of OPR. This is in the executive title. And then Title 26, where we have the profession-specific. So, to the first part, that is the general powers in the office. This bill proposes to explicitly enable OPR to rescind licenses in instances of administrative error, non-payment, or withdrawal from or lapse of interstate compacts. It will enable OPR to enforce against attempted fraudulent deceptive procurement or attempted use of such. Right now, I'm hoping that is the actual conduct, but not the attempt of. Bill proposed to require professional regulation board members to be adults. It will correct terminology for license denials of foreign applicants. It will create additional, so here's where we go turn to the 26 provisions having to do with specific professions. It will create additional combinations of education and experience as prerequisites for council licensure. It will create a limited academic dentist license where we have that kind of phantom fee of $0. It will remove the requirement for APRN or advanced practice registered nurses when they are renewing the licenses to include documentation of completion of those practice requirements. It will enable pharmacists to prescribe, order, and administer tests for COVID-19, influenza, streptococcal pharyngitis, and subsequent drug treatment related to those conditions. It will enable OPR to create temporary policies to supplement psychologist license education requirements. This will be notwithstanding any contrary rules. And that is kind of a pseudo pilot period. Get into that a bit.
Senator Bielski.
I just wanted so the pharmacists can administer those tests and then prescribe treatment so that's like antibiotics. Would it be Paxlovid as well? Okay, I realized that. Okay, thanks. And no, this is a live question. This is an OPR question.
Nice chat.
This bill will also eliminate the advisory committee on midwifery that reports to OPR and the Commissioner of Health, and changes to the license renewal requirement for midwives to submit individual practice data to a discretionary decision to be made by the director. As the director can require that if it's not necessarily required in statute. It will modify the definition of what is practice of funeral services to include the disposition of human remains by cremation, alkaline hydrolysis, or natural organic reduction. It will require OPR to report on the possible professional regulation of speech and language pathology assistants, as to be distinguished from pathologists themselves. And is creating a sunrise report for those and assistants. And then it will require the registration of massage establishments as distinct from massage therapists themselves, and expand on operational requirements and related professional conduct for massage therapists in those establishments. Any questions so far in terms of that?
I'll have Lauren reinforce my knowledge here of the 3 levels. There's registration, certification, and licensure. Is that correct? And each involves a little bit more, I don't know if I want to say accountability, but it's a little more complicated than the one below it, if you will. Maybe that's a poor way to express that, but I just want to make sure. So what we're talking about here with the massage folks, registration, which is the least involved. Yes.
And we already register the therapists themselves,
These are establishments.
but we had battles over whether they should be licensed or not. Given the track record of some of the abuse that we had to hear in this committee, which was appalling. We had the same battle over contractors. We have this on a regular basis, this discussion. We almost seldom, very seldom land on certification. We always seem to be either registering people or licensing them. Okay.
Okay, so now revisiting each of these points in more detail. Not too much detail, hopefully, but get a real sense of what the bill actually contains and how it seeks to address and achieve these various items. So in part 1 of the bill, we're going to be speaking to general powers of OPR against Title III powers, assuming sections 1 through 7 of the bill. And start with section 1, which will amend 3 VSA 123, the duties of the office. And this is that new mechanism for rescission of licenses in instances where they are issued either erroneously through administrative error, through because of non-payment of fees, or when a compact becomes no longer binding on the state, whether the state withdraws from it voluntarily, or some compacts, if they don't have X number of states, they essentially stop functioning.
Right. So
Tim, the difference between the board that supervises and oversees a profession and OPR doing this, because currently a board, like I've had dentists in my neck of the woods have their licenses revoked. That's done by the board, not OPR. So this enables OPR to do this, not a board. Is that right?
If I may again, Lauren Hibbert, in very specific instances that are more administrative in nature versus unprofessional conduct or disciplinary, that's the difference. When there's a need for professional expertise to decide should this person's license be revoked, suspended, conditioned, warned, then those are unprofessional conduct cases. Those go before the board. But if it's more administrative, which as legislative council just outlined, the reasons that we are asking for authorization for this are more administrative in nature, more bureaucratic, more related to the process of the actual licensing action, then we are asking for the authority to rescind. I don't know, and I apologize, I don't know if legislative council had got to a place where the licensee could appeal that decision and then it would go before the board. So there's, yeah.
So, and we'll find most of this process built into section 3, which will create a new section in Title 3 VSA 129C rescissions. And again, this will enable OPR to rescind the license. Those 3 kind of categories of occurrence, whether they be issued by administrative mistake, fees not paid, or withdrawal from compact or inclusion of compact. And the rescission process will take 2 forms, essentially based on how long the holder of the license has had that license. So if it's for less than 30 days, there's a certain standard of due process afforded, and then if there's more than 30 days that held that license, there's additional due process for that person. And so would the committee like me to go through that, or just kind of put a pin in it for now?
And this fine.
Okay. So, and then we have section 4, which will amend, let's see. I should just describe sections 4. Oh, yes. 4 kind of clarifies existing language in the disciplinary action to be reported to the office. Section 3 VSA 128, really removing a double negative, providing more clarity that everybody in the offices. Section 5 speaks to unprofessional conduct in 3 VSA 129A. And here's where we have the inserting of the attempt language when it comes to the definition of what constitutes unprofessional conduct. Whereas before, it was just fraudulent or deceptive procurement of or use of a license. I would be inserting the attempt thereof to broadening that category, but very much in this similar spirit. And let's see, also in that section, we have, adding a new subsection G, enabling the licensee, a licensee with substance use disorder to voluntarily enter into a diversion program as an alternative to disciplinary processes. Section 6, we have, oh yes, 3 VSA 129B, board members and advisory appointments. And this will be amended so that all board members must be adults. And that is the age of majority, which in the state is 18. Section 7.
Senator Clarkson.
Maybe this is a better question for Lauren, but what prompted this? Certainly the assumption is that they're all adults.
That is a better question.
Yes, we'll hold that. Loved it.
Let's see, section 7 addresses the uniform process for foreign credential verification in 3 VSA 137. And let's see. In subdivision D of this section, we have language regarding license denials for foreign applicants, which incorporates by cross-reference standard license denial procedures found in 3 VSA 129. And let's see, this was somewhat recently amended in 2023. And eliminated the preliminary denial process for license applications, not on the basis of qualification. And this amendment corrects the outdated terminology by removing the word preliminary for license denials. So just kind of housekeeping. Part 2 of the bill, and here's where we transition out of Title 3 back into Title 26. I'm going to do a specific professions being regulated. We go now to accountants in sections 8 and 10. And there's just a note here about where it came in from another House bill. It's not really too important to folks. So just kind of speak on that first. I'll update this amendment accordingly for next time the committee reviews it. So let's see. We have some modification of some of the terms in the definition section for accountants, says 26 VSA 13. Namely, the definition of principal place of business, replacing the term. See, substantial equivalency with mobility, which is more in line with common parlance, vernacular terminology, lingo, etc. of profession. And then we have section 9, which let's see, amends 26 VSA 7.1A, license by examination, to create additional combinations, education, and experience as prerequisites to obtaining a license by examination. In essence, there's various kind of combination of, okay, this level of education plus this level of experience on the job, and then you are qualified to take the examination, qualified for licensure. And this will introduce additional combinations of more or less education, more or less experience. Let's see, section 10, rename the 26 VSA section 74C to be mobility. And this will enable an out-of-state accountant so that they do not need to obtain a license if they both, 1, are licensed in any state, and 2, pass the uniform CPA examination and have a permitted combination of education and experience, which will mirror the additional options in section 9 prior. Any questions on accountants? Okay, move on to dentists. And this is sections 11 and 12 of the bill. Section 11 will create a new section to be 26 VSA 603 limited academic dentist license. To create that limited academic dentist license, that'll be for teaching at an accredited dental program under the general supervision of fully licensed dentists. Just get started to section 12, which will amend the fees portion. And this is where we have that kind of phantom fee of just $0. Spelled out just because
And why are we calling it? And
Because it's there, but it's
just
not there.
it gives us room to set.
Part 4, having to do with funeral services. And this is where we see the definition changed in 26 VSA 1211. That is the practice of funeral services, which will now include the provision of disposition of dead human bodies by cremation, alkaline hydrolysis, or natural organic destruction.
Are there definitions in the bill of what those last two things are? I think I understand cremation. I'm not sure I understand alkaline hydrolysis or.
I don't think we do define them.
Composting and natural burial,
Green
burials,
Composting.
composting, reduction, right? What? Composting is natural reduction. Remember, it takes a long time. And
We voted a few years ago to make legal.
yes.
Yeah, I remember that. I just,
Alkaline hydrolyzation is in fact dissolving a body.
Yes.
Basic.
Oh, that's what happens.
alkalines and batteries too.
Well, it's alkaline is just describing that it's pH level. It's a basic, an alkaline pH as opposed to an acidic pH.
Yeah.
So we can't dissolve someone in acid, but we can dissolve them in a base.
That would be illegal.
Oh,
Bob's job.
I guess maybe we could ask the sheriff on funeral directors for
Yeah.
that, or.
I didn't mean to get hung up on
No, I'm just curious,
that.
Yeah, it would probably be good for funeral directors.
Actually, was it Michelle or Melissa, the person who came from the
Yeah, I remember her.
And the funeral directors would be great at both.
Well, this is fine.
You can find in the statute.
We just did this a while ago.
Those are two new pathways for disposition of bodies. We did that totally.
I'm not sure.
That was a big debate.
I was brought up to speed.
When did we do that? In 23, 22?
There were 23 for one and
20, just a while ago.
the organic reduction was first.
And that maybe was in 21.
And that's the composting. It creates a lot of organic matter that can be reused. And then alkaline, as Senator Bohosky said, it's dissolving of bodies in, I believe it's like a electrified water process. I think there's only one facility in Vermont that's using it. And that is different than Green Mountain Cemetery, which is organic disposition in the ground.
Right.
Natural burial is what that's called.
Then you're placed and done.
Yeah,
For
versus
this whole process, and then you get
the
placed.
organic reduction is you're put into something and then turned as if you are in a compost bin essentially. With other organic matter.
I'm glad we got lunch.
And all of that is to help come up with alternatives to cremation and traditional
Which is-
embalming. Both methods are extremely tough.
Chemicals and high amount of
Environmental.
energy. Remember we talked about this high amounts of energy, lots of chemicals, bad for the world.
Okay, so then we turn to advanced practice registered nurses. This is the section 14 of the bill. And again, this will say amend 26 VSA 1614 to remove the requirement for advanced practice.
Did you just jump over the benefit?
It's
Oh, no, I guess.
brief.
Great.
I can go back to. And so, let's see, section 14 will amend 26 VSA 1614 to remove the requirement for advanced practice registered nurses renewal. Licensure renewal, that is to include documentations of completion of the APR and practice requirement. The part 6, we get into pharmacists, and we have section 14A that will amend 26 VSA 2023. And this will enable pharmacists, in accordance with the board pharmacy rules, to engage in the practice of clinical pharmacy, including prescribing, initiate antibiotic therapy pursuant to a collaborative practice agreement or state protocol. Will also enable pharmacists to prescribe, order, or administer in a manner consistent with valid state protocols, test for COVID-19, influenza, streptococcal pharyngitis, and the subsequent drug treatment of those conditions. And just note here that state protocols are approved by the Commissioner of Health after consultation with the professional regulation and the board, and the ability for public comments as well. Okay, moving on to psychologists in section 15. This will create this is session law that will enable OPR to temporarily make policies for a 3-year period regarding the supplementation of educational requirements for psychologist licensure. These policies will control, notwithstanding any contrary rule, and will require, this section will also require OPR to adopt updated rules regarding supplementation by the end of that 3-year period. Okay. And now we turn to midwives in section 16, and this is in the middle of the entire chapter, but really just 2 specific statutory sections within it. Tells 26 VSA 4185 having to do with director and duties. Will dissolve the midwife advisory committee to the director and to the commissioner of health. 26 VSA 4187 having to do with renewals for midwife licensure will remove the requirement that licensed midwives submit individual practice data later to discretion of the director to require that or not. Part 9 of the bill has to do with. Yes, sorry.
But they do report all of the information to somewhere else already, is my understanding. So this is to reduce the duplication of submitting it because they have to report it already.
To Purdue,
Okay.
Veterans.
Okay.
Part 9 has to do with speech language pathologist assistance, and section 17 of the bill will create new session law. Is session law that will require OPR to perform sunrise review concerning the suggested level of credentialing of speech language pathologist assistants practicing in the state. And so now we move on to massage therapists, body workers, and touch professionals. And just for sake of brevity, I'm just going to be truncating that and referring to as massage therapists. But no, I'm speaking to all 3. And this will be in sections 18 and 19 together. These sections would namely require the registration of massage establishments. And that is the existing term, but it really modifies what was place of business. And will expand on the operational requirements and the related unprofessional conduct for this this now registered profession. So section 18, we have the amendment of the entire chapter, and that's 105. We have all the provisions for massage therapists. And I'm just going to run through the various statutory amendments here. So Title 26, BSA 5401 will modify the definitions. Here's where we have definition of establishment really being amended so that you change the meaning from a place of business to a location where the practice is regularly engaged in. And then it also removes the definition of place of business. The next section, 5403, having to do unauthorized practice. This will be amended to add to who may be found conducting unauthorized practice. That is the will now include individuals who own or operate unregistered establishments. 5404 having to do with exemptions for registration, and this will be added so that massage therapists who's allowed to practice in the location is not required to register establishment, the licensee, and the client agrees. Yes. Okay, let's leave it there.
Just kind of on this section,
Yes.
I'll just give you an example. We have a fantastic location called Open Door in downtown White Junction, which hosts bodywork professionals. It's a yoga studio. I think they do aerial yoga. I mean, they do the gamut. Very important place. They also have folks who do massage therapy in a room as well. Would Open Door be an example? They would have to register as an establishment.
So
Okay, but if it's not the primary purpose of the place.
Right, it's, there's still massage taking place, in that location. And
Oh, okay, so if they rented it out, because they rent the space out to certain massage therapists who use the room. So who would the landlord have to be the one to,
See, trying to think if it's under the one name, I would imagine would be required to, versus if it's renting a room, but associated at all, might be a different scenario where we do have a provision here where solo practitioners essentially don't have to register
okay,
an establishment as well.
but if
But
you,
if it's under, it's associated with restaurant, it's the hypothetical, to be, sizable enough, to register as an establishment. Under there, but I can think more about it.
okay, yeah,
PR two, maybe depending on how you, the nuance like that, it's be more action.
yeah, I could see there's a couple places that kind of do a mixture. We also have someone who does acupuncture, so it's a space that's used by multiple practitioners. So I don't know if it sounds like they would be required to have a license if there was any kind of that happening. But I don't know who would register. Would it be the landlord? Would it be the massage therapists who are maybe a group of folks who are renting a space? That's how they do it. There's like a few of them. They'll rent and rotate the space with their clients. So maybe they would have to register as an entity? Like what would?
Again, I would invite OPR to kind of
Okay.
opine on it as well, but I think it does depend on the relationship between the renter or rentee here, because I can see how independent they are,
Okay.
but maybe that's just me kind of concentrating a lot out.
Yeah, are they like 3 solo practitioners? I don't know.
But I will say the definition is, where the practice of massage or the practice of body work is regularly engaged in, so.
Yeah, I would consider.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see, so we turn to where we director duties, I think, and
What if you were, okay, just another example. What if you were a chiropractor, for example, but you allowed a massage therapist to receive clients on occasion in your offices? Would you have to register as a establishment?
if they are your employee or,
They are not your employee.
okay, so this is just associated with the independent contract.
Yeah.
I mean, practice is there, but they are a solo practitioner, so they wouldn't have to register. Massage therapists themselves would have to be registered. But yeah, I don't know, and I'll have to chew on that.
May depend on the definition of regular.
Yeah, like if you, because I know there's, for example, a chiropractor who has a relationship where his clients also get like physical therapy and then also massage from someone who could come into that location. So then you don't have to drive, they're right in town. So,
Yeah. So, let's see, 26 VSA 5411, having to do with the duties of the director, will be amended. A new subsection, subdivision 5, enabling the director to adopt rules limiting the applicability of this chapter as applied to the establishments operated within private homes. The next section, 5423, establishments designate inspection. This will be amended to require establishments to register with the PR. It will ensure that establishments and establishment is being operated lawfully regardless whether or not the owner is on site or has personal knowledge of the operation. It will provide the director with the ability to demand certain ownership information and to make inspections prior to registration. And finally, it will enable OPR to deny registration based on the location of prior unprofessional conduct. Then we turn to the fees section, particular to this profession in 26 VSA 5425. And let's see, this will be amended to enable an establishment where the practice of massage or the practice of body work is provided by only 2 massage therapists to pay a reduced fee of $50 for registration and $75 for biannual renewal. I should note that, again, mentioned just in passing just now that solo practitioners do not have to register in establishments. Therefore, let's get that right. But also then there are establishments with more than 2 massage therapists will pay the default fee of $3 for the establishment registration.
Okay,
So we have solo practitioners coverage during as establishments, not paying the fee. 2, will pay a reduced fee, and then more than 2 will pay the default fee. And then we have amending 5426, having to do with display of registration. And this will now require the display of both establishments registration in addition to any practice and licensees displayed their registration as well. The unprofessional conduct provision is in 5427, and this will kind of read into section 19. I should say before moving on, just skipping ahead quickly, contradict myself there, but section 18A will amend 3 VSA 125. This is where all the fees are running listed with enumerated fees are for other professions as well. And this kind of creates that enabling reduction for fee for the only 2 massage services. Going back up to 5427 of professional conduct, this will be amended to add what constitutes unprofessional conduct. And we added to see that this will be engaging with a client in sexual conduct and as defined by criminal statute 13 VSA 2821. And then skipping down to section 19, this will amend another criminal type statute that is 13 VSA 2638, and to do immunity from liability. This will add a safe harbor provision for victims of prostitution and trafficking, allowing them to report those crimes without themselves being prosecuted for unauthorized practice of massage or body work. And the effective dates. Yes. So we have sections 1 through 10, general powers as well as accountants. Sections 13 through 17 under funeral services, advanced practice for nurses, psychologists, midwives, speech language pathology assistance reports. Those will all take effect on passage. Sections 11 and 12 have to do with dentists. So that new academic that shall take effect on September 1st, 2026. Then so we have section 18 and 19. 18 having to do with massage therapists, and 19 having to do with that safe harbor provision for victims. Those will go into effect on December 1st, 2026. Is that everything else?
I'm momentarily, I think, putting on my judiciary hat for a minute, maybe I'm just nitpicking language, but based on the definition of prostitution, I'm unsure how one can be a victim of prostitution. Trafficking, yes. But I am wondering, just from a legality standpoint, the depth of how we define that.
So let's see, it looks like 13 VSA 2638 defines prostitution as having the same meaning as in 13 2631. Let me look that up. 631.
I mean, unless we need,
Is that I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
613. Oh, sorry. Okay, and that's this is under 13, chapter 59, lewdness and prostitution, subchapter 2, prostitution, 2631, as used in the section 1, the term prostitution shall be construed to include the offering or receiving of the body for sexual intercourse for hire, and shall also be construed to include the offering or receiving of the body for indiscriminate sexual intercourse without hire. And so,
I don't understand, that's a crime that one commits. I don't understand how one can be the victim of it. It's arguably a fairly victimless crime.
sure, understood. I don't know if I have,
Okay,
so that's my answer.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Tim?
And yeah, let me just kind of revisit the language here. So we have person who in good faith in a timely manner reports to law enforcement that the person is victim or witness to the crime that arose and the persons involved in prostitution or human trafficking should not be cited and arrested.
Actually, revisiting the language makes it make more sense. Thank you.
Okay. Obviously,
Tim.
welcome
Thanks.
today while we look to ATR.
Thanks for your summary. Very helpful.
So Lauren Hibbert is joining us, and Jennifer, you're welcome to come up as well.
Thank you. Again, I'll take this chair.
You want to swap and then just.
Oh, okay, yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both.
Thank you so much. For the record, Lauren Hibbert, Deputy Secretary of State.
And Jen Cullen, Director of the Office of Professional Regulation. Hello.
We understand that you all have about half an hour. So, we'll skip the overview since you know us well. It is in our written testimony for anyone who's watching online or has questions about what we do at OPR. We are very proud of that work. So
Do y'all want hard copies? Because I found this very like right before. You know me. I love.
yeah.
Oh, you all want stuff? Yeah. Okay. All here. Because you know the point is you can write your notes shop hard copy. Whereas, okay. I know some people could do it digitally, but.
So, I'm going to go over the general OPR provisions. Jen's going to go over the specific profession provisions. And then, as always happens, since this bill moved through the House process, we have some additional revisions and asks of this committee. So I don't suspect that we'll get to those. They are in this testimony, but I am hopeful that someone, the committee, will authorize us to work with legislative council to make some additional changes. And maybe if we're going through, we can talk about that. But so the concept of rescission of a license is really this, again, it's this administrative authority in very specific instances. This is when a license is issued in error or it's issued on something that is no longer true or factual, is another way to think about it. So we're adding that authority. We also, in the duties of the office, this is section 1, we are very excited to be contemplating and planning to do an alternatives to discipline program. This currently is only in nursing. This is for cases that there is a problem, but it may not warrant public prosecution, and we want to provide support outside of the disciplinary process. So these are cases that right now may be screened out or may just end in a warning or a reprimand. And instead of doing that large laborious process, we would put somebody into the alternatives for discipline program. That's one track. And then another track is for professionals who are struggling with substance abuse before it becomes an impact on their practice. We do support nurses who are struggling with substance abuse in our alternatives program. It is very successful because it provides just a little structure and accountability. It's outside of the court system, it's outside of the employer, it's outside of our disciplinary process, but it does provide that structure that some people need. And that would be something that they would voluntarily enter. Section 2 is our rescission hearing authority. Section 3, that is our rescission process. Very limited. So administrative mistakes, we don't like to make mistakes, but sometimes we do. A payment method has been returned. So insufficient funds, that happens quite a bit. That happens right now. We give people time to pay, and we would continue to do that. But if somebody doesn't submit payment after a certain period of time, then we need to take the credential away. And right now we don't have a great mechanism to do so. Or when a national license compact is no longer binding and a licensee never got a Vermont license to practice on. So someone could have a multi-state license, their primary state is, let's say, South Carolina. I don't know whether South Carolina, which profession we're talking about, but South Carolina takes away the primary state license. We had Vermont authorization that was built on South Carolina. So if we don't have that as our foundation, we need to be able to take away the Vermont layer. This would, again, is outside of the disciplinary process.
In instances like that, and I think that currently the only sort of up and running and functioning compact is the nursing compact.
We actually have quite a few now.
Yeah.
Well, I know we put a bunch in motion, but that's
so
the only one
I'm gonna look to Jen to help me, but I believe we have positions. We have the osteopathic physician compact, we have the nursing compact, we have
the counseling compact, but that's not active at this point. We're not issuing those credentials. Physical therapists.
those, that's active.
That's
Okay. That is helpful. I'm wondering how do you know if the South Carolina license was revoked and like, what does that look like? Are you monitoring them all?
We get notifications.
Okay,
There's the IT programs behind all of the companies that send notifications to the states. That's part of the structure.
okay, yeah. I was envisioning like,
We do not actively monitor everybody every day.
That would be
It would be impossible, yeah. And as legislative council mentioned, there are two layers of the process. One is if the credential has been issued for less than 30 days, that comes back to constitutional law, you have less of a property right. If it's been issued for more than 30 days, there's more due process required on office, which really less than 30 days, you provide notice, you rescind, you provide notice to the licensee, and then they can seek review and are given appeal rights. It's rescinded before the licensee receives notice. Option two is we have to provide advance notice and we're give time for the licensee to request a hearing before a board or administrative law officer. It's not a board profession. And then if there's no hearing requested, then there's no appeal rights. But if there is a hearing requested, then there is appeal rights. So that is just another way for us to streamline these administrative problems with the license. As legislative council said, section 4 is removing a double negative. That section of the law has provided a lot of confusion for our healthcare facilities who are all required to report on a mandatory basis if someone within their facility is suspected of unprofessional conduct that changes their authorization to work in the facility, meaning they're removed from the floor, they're put on probation, they're put on suspension, they're fired. That's a mandatory report to us. Section 5 is the attempt to fraudulently procure. If we catch them and don't allow for the procurement of the license, it was more challenging to prosecute them for attempting to fraudulently procure a license. And this is part of our duty to sister states, because if someone is attempting to fraudulently procure a license from us, they're probably attempting to procure a license from another state as well. And the denial of a license is not public because we found that the document was false, but this would allow us to prosecute them and then have that be public. Yes, we want to make sure that everyone is the age of majority who serves on our boards and advisors. We haven't had someone who has wanted to, who has been under. We have.
So, sorry, we had a situation where there was a public member opening on a board and there was a high school student who wanted to serve on the board, and we really didn't have the statutory we like having the statutory authority to be able to say you've got to be 18 to serve on a board.
And the rationale there is really just the seriousness of the nature of the cases that are heard, and also the complication. These are complicated questions that come before boards. They're making decisions, they're doing rulemaking, and in almost every single one of our professions are hearing about people's substance abuse, sexual misconduct, other misconduct, and also reviewing college transcripts. It's very complicated work for them. Very important.
I'm trying to understand what fraudulent procurement, I like deceptive, I understand, but are you lying about your background? Or you
create a fake diploma or fake transcript. You alter your certificate of good standing from another state. You never went to nursing school at all. These are all things that we have seen.
You use someone else's name, use your mother's name, and she used to be a nurse, and you use her name.
There's quite a gamut. And then the last section is just cleanup from work that we did around the licensure denial process. We skipped a section that year that, and we should have removed preliminary from the language. So this is, statutory cleanup from previous year's actions. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jen to talk to you about accountants.
Great, thank you. So Title 26, there's a national movement to make accountants, CPAs more mobile. Apparently there's a significant workforce shortage in that profession. So, you know, rather than a technical compact, CPAs do and are getting mobility between states, even if they don't have a license issued by this state. So these provisions are really intended to increase CPA mobility. So you'll see in section 9, that's going to reduce barriers and open up additional licensing pathways for certified public accountants. These changes allow licensure for individuals with a post-bachelor's degree with focus in accounting plus 1 year of experience, or a bachelor's degree with focus in accounting and 2 years of experience to become licensed. Previously, there was a more limited pathway of 150 college credits. Individuals still have to take and pass the CPA exam. And the language in B was removed because the 2 additional pathways provide the qualifications required. So there's no longer a need for the board to kind of exercise its discretion and allows other folks in. The next section, 74, section 10, which is 26 VSA 74C, the changes in this section focus on bringing Vermont mobility requirements in line with national efforts to increase mobility for CPAs. And it allows Vermont to recognize a CPA from another state without them having to get a license in Vermont. So as long as they meet the kind of substantially equivalent educational requirements in Vermont, and if they pass the CPA exam, they can practice in Vermont.
CPAs are licensed to protect the public. So how do we protect, if they're not licensed in Vermont, how are we monitoring and protecting the public?
So it's the definition of licensure. There's a very general definition, and that can mean any one of the credentials, the certification, the registration, or a license. It can also mean the privilege to practice in the state under any authority. So for example, during COVID times, there was an emergency action that the governor did to allow healthcare professionals to come in and practice. They did not have a Vermont license, but if they came to Vermont and practiced, we could discipline them and remove their privilege to practice under that emergency order. Here, if a CPA is practicing in the state of Vermont, if we get a complaint about them, then we can still remove their privilege to practice that's granted under this section.
Okay, I guess I'm just wondering, like, we went through all the work to do all of these different compacts to be able to hold professionals accountable. Why wouldn't we have just done this? If we can just say, yeah, it's fine, you can just come practice here, you don't need a Vermont license.
Yeah, and I don't know why CPAs are different and why the mobility efforts have not come about as the result of a compact. I'm really not sure about that.
They just chose a different strategy. But in reality, this is very similar to the nurse compact, where a nurse is licensed in Connecticut and he can come work at UVM, never contact OPR at all. We don't know that that nurse is working here. That nurse can work under his Connecticut license at UVM. But if something goes wrong and he begins diverting, then UVM is required to report to us, and we remove his ability. We have authority under the compact, and this gives us authority against a CPA who would do something on another state license to investigate that person and prosecute that person and remove their ability to practice here. And that would be reported to their home state as well.
Do you have any sense of the financial impact? Because my understanding when, like with the nurses compact, is that requires additional work from OPR that we're not really compensated for by the other sending state.
Yeah, I don't believe that there was a financial assessment of that on the House side. We may be able to assess that here on this side.
Okay, thank you.
So there's some pretty big accounting firms out there in the world. And I'm just thinking of a big one, say in the Midwest, that really wants to go into Vermont. And so they're not gonna need a license? You can allow them in somehow, or are they gonna, all of them gonna be required? What if they want to just flood it in here? Each and every one of those individuals is gonna need a license from OPR.
We license the firm itself, so we would know about the firm, but the people who work within the firm perhaps would not need a license.
Better question.
How many I mean, a ton of people have insurance, different types of insurance from all over the world. We license everyone who does to practice in Vermont.
No. CPAs are certified public accountants, and there's a certain subset of them, but
That work here in Vermont, if they work in.
or even within that specific definition, that like our tax professionals, usually are not CPAs. Some of us choose to hire CPAs, but there's a whole gamut of financial services that's offered in the state, in any state, and CPAs, there's very specific subset of accountants.
Okay, so. And, there, in section 10, subsection G, there's a legacy pathway for folks, from other states who have been able to practice, in Vermont. But that might no longer be able to under the current, requirements. And so that legacy pathway is just preserved so that folks who have, been able to practice in Vermont up to 12/30/124, but who don't qualify under current requirements, are still able to practice in Vermont. Just maintaining that legacy pathway.
If I can just come back to the mobility just for 1 second.
Sure.
I just want to clarify that this has been an authorization in the accountancy statutes for quite some time. The statute used to refer to substantial equivalency, and we are asking for it to be changed to mobility, but the statute used to say, and I'm on page 10, line 19, an individual whose principal place of business is not in this state shall be presumed to have qualifications substantially equivalent to this state's requirements and shall have the privileges of licensure in this state without the need to obtain a license under section 72B of this title. So we're not changing this concept that's been in accountancy. So there's no change except for that we are updating the concept of what it means to be substantially equivalent and outlining that in this section that is exactly the way the requirements are. So we are taking out the word substantially equivalent and putting the new requirements in that we are asking the legislature to approve.
And nationally, mobility is the term that other states use rather than substantial equivalency. So we're just trying to come in line with other states.
The privilege to practice, even if you don't meet the current requirements, is that something we offer to Vermont CPAs?
They already are because they were licensed to practice before.
They're from, so it's for individuals from other states who already had the privilege to practice in Vermont. So there was a pathway already in the law that allowed them to practice here. And so we're just maintaining that pathway for folks who relied upon that, and had it as of a certain date.
Okay, I guess, my question is does that same privilege apply to people who are licensed in Vermont? If they no longer, because we've changed the laws, they no longer meet those requirements.
They will continue to have their license.
Okay.
So we didn't, the folks who, we've kind of removed barriers and reduced requirements. So folks who were licensed in Vermont had 150 credits and had passed the CPA exam. So the bar was here. We've created some pathways that were less than that. So that's it really wouldn't impact Vermont licensees in that way. Okay, moving on to dentists. So you'll see in section 11, we're creating a limited academic dental license. That credential is going to allow dentists from other jurisdictions who are working as full-time dental faculty at an accredited teaching facility to, and these folks are working under the general supervision of a Vermont licensed dentist. They can practice in a clinic that's associated with the dental school. And this is similar to what I believe a credential that's offered to faculty, medical doctors, faculty in the state. So we're just trying to allow these practitioners to come in, work without having to get a full Vermont dentist license. And again, they're working in a clinic that offers free or reduced fee services for folks as part of teaching in the dental school. So that's this new limited academic dental license. Because they're working in a clinic that offers free and reduced fee services, we made the determination that the fee could be waived. It could be zero for that, which is consistent with other practitioners who are working in free and reduced fee clinics. And subsection C, it prohibits the limited license holders from getting a specialty in anesthesia and sedation. Those specialties are laid out in the administrative rules, but because we don't have time to do rulemaking and kind of say that these limited practitioners can't have those specialties, we just included that prohibition in the statute. So it limits kind of the scope of what they're allowed to do in a dental clinic. And they can practice under the supervision of a Vermont licensed dentist.
I'll just say, this is really big news for Vermont. Really exciting to have a dental school that looks like it's going to open. I think it's planned to open in 2028. We have a shortage of dentists in the state, and our dental population is moving on to retirement. And so any time that we have the ability to create more dentists in the state, it's very, very exciting. So
It is. And because we let dental therapy kind of go.
No.
Sad, a whimper.
well, we created it, but they didn't come.
Create it and they.
Yeah, okay.
We built a structure, but they didn't come.
Well, and it's gonna cost us a lot. But, and so the dental school, who's taking on the dental school? Vermont State University?
It's Detroit, Mercy.
It's a branch of Detroit.
Yeah.
But who are they operating under? They must be operating as someone's umbrella.
I think it's just a satellite location of a dental school that is in Detroit.
And where will it be in Vermont, in Berlin?
Rutland or Springfield should be held.
This is Emily Carr, General Counsel. So
It was taking over, building already vacant in Colchester.
No, we don't need it in Colchester. We need it in Springfield, Rutland. Why don't they ever?
I don't know. They should.
So
Senator Mills.
I love that we're gonna get a dental school. I love that we're gonna train more dentists, but I guess if you're gonna live and work full-time in Vermont as a dentist, why wouldn't you need a Vermont dentist license? And I do support thinking about, the fees. It concerns me when we're saying this person isn't gonna have the same oversight because they're in a clinic working with poor people.
Yeah, I think that concern is fair. This is a way there's people who specialize in training dentists, and many of them are foreign trained. Some of them are trained within the country. Their qualifications look a bit different than the standard pathways for Vermont dentistry. So this is a way to be able to get them in the door quickly. This was an ask of the dental school. This is a pathway that other states have for dental faculty. And all of it is under the supervision of a Vermont dentist who will be watching and ensuring quality. We will still have jurisdiction over the conduct that occurs there. This does not exempt them from our oversight. In fact, we're issuing them a credential, and we will be able to accept complaints and handle anything that could happen. But this is really a way for my understanding, and you should hear from the Dental Association. I would recommend that you do. And perhaps the dental school. You can ask them about Rutland. But this is a way to expedite, particularly foreign trained dentists who specialize in teaching dentistry.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I guess I would hope to see some, like we've done with other professions, some sort of time limit on how long they can not have the license to give them, you know, to expedite and give them the chance to get the license we have in state. It just gives me pause. And it gives me pause that we're now creating multiple different things where we are providing oversight to professions that are not paying into our system at all. Like, that also really concerns me, knowing the state of the budget.
That concerns me, given what we know about your finances.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it does make sense that it would be a path to something.
Right, rather than just an indefinite.
I think,
But the other thing is they're doing something different. They're not practicing dentistry.
They are.
No, they're teaching this.
well, you teach through practice on a human being.
But the scope of practice is different than a fully licensed.
That's right. Okay, it's not,
Much like the
expectation is different.
optician, ophthalmologist.
But they still have to get a license.
Right.
And
But they
there are,
have a license.
They have a license in another jurisdiction
Yeah.
and they're going to get a license here with us.
Yeah.
But it is a 0 fee license and
That's, I think, our concern.
I guess I'm not concerned. I appreciate your reflection on that, but I'm not concerned because we need them to be here training people so
Well,
badly.
well, and we-
Then maybe we do it for a few years. Maybe we have a sunset on the 0 part.
And as Director Cohen did say, there are other pathways in dentistry where if you are doing pro bono work, you do not need to pay a fee. That is a model with a lot of our professions. And this was at the request of the dental school to expedite these licensure pathways so that people didn't have to go back and do additional training in order to become the faculty here.
So does it make any sense to sunset that part? That's the point.
I think, I don't want to answer that on the fly, so let me
Okay, well,
think
we
about
could
that.
chat about it.
I mean, I think this is also part of a broader conversation about how we think more broadly about what qualifies someone. We have a very Western focused, very specific, like, because we have this happen with physicians all the time. We have many physicians who have come to this country being trained in another country who now work at as a janitor at the hospital because they can't get a license here.
Correct, and that's something that we've really
You've
been
really
working
worked
on at OPR. Dentistry is one of our professions that candidly has been the hardest in our conversations. Right now, if you're a foreign trained dentist and you want to come into Vermont to be licensed, you have to do a postgraduate program. This is what we're trying to circumvent, and we can talk more about it. But if you want a full dentistry license in Vermont and you were foreign trained, the skills may be the same that you were taught, but you have to get this postgraduate degree in the States in order to get a license here. That has been a discussion that we've really been working on with the dentist community. On whole, they really support more foreign trained dentists, but they want this surety of the postgraduate program. This would allow that person who's foreign trained to not have to go get that postgraduate program and be able to teach in the dentist.
Is there any type of evaluation of if the skill set is in fact the
Well,
same?
I'm very confident the dental school is doing that. But I don't know that OPR will. We'll be looking at, again, this is really us looking at, is this person qualified to do what they are doing? And not the full dentistry scope of practice, because they're not going to be sedating people. They're not going to be doing anesthesia. There's limited subsections of procedures that they're going to be doing. But I really think you should hear from a dentist.
We also expect that there's gonna be less than 20 of these practitioners in the state, so the fiscal impacts are negligible.
Yeah, I guess the only to add to maybe your concern on a slightly different level is I would hope that the dentist school would be hiring in-state dentists as much as possible rather than.
Well, if they exist and if they want to do this, we had hit this challenge with nursing. Where we had to create a whole incentive to get people to come and teach nursing because not enough nurses. Yeah, was sliding back in pay.
Oh,
There were all sorts of other reasons why people didn't want to teach.
Yes,
They,
I guess I was trying to add to maybe the other side of the argument for fairness.
We've managed to
as usual.
only get halfway through Jen's section.
Yeah,
Can we have you guys come back?
We'd love to.
And we love to. So we'll do, sections 13 through 20 or 19. And
Never mind.
maybe, are you available Thursday or Friday?
Yes,
I'm sure we can make it.
Okay.
We'll be
If you
here.
just want to contact Lynn and work out a time,
It's so flexible.
Do you mind if we do a 2-minute break?
yeah, we will. Okay, thanks, Jen. Thanks, Lana.
So much.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure having the OPR bill here. Well, not always a pleasure, but mostly always a pleasure.
Why don't we take a 5-minute break and then we're gonna talk about the reporting requirements in the next segment. So we'll be back